Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the M4J network here on OpenTTD. This week, we are doing something a little bit different to the last couple of weeks. The last few weeks, we've been looking at rail freight. This time, we're looking at something else that's carried on rail that isn't passengers, but it's not freight as such, it is mail. Welcome back to M4J MailRail. It's been a long time coming. I came up with an idea for this like 6 months ago. Didn't really know where to go with it, but in recent weeks I've had a little bit of thinking time. The rail freight seems to be going well, so I thought why not have a go at MailRail and see where we go with that. So first and foremost, I am rebuilding this depot here, which you may remember from way back when is the original depot of the Gardcity SouthEastern / SouthEastern franchise. That has since moved. I can't remember the name of the new depot, but it has now moved onto the SouthEastern mainline itself, which meant that this depot site here was left blank. Now I was going to use this for freight operations and only freight operations, but I mean I could still use it for freight operations. I could extend some of the platforms, maybe the easternmost ones, and turn them into more freight, and then have the mail rail on the western side, because as you can see I've added quite a lot of platforms here, and I kind of did that with future proofing in mind, but we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I decided not to use this for freight for the time being, because we do have the one to the north of Gardcity up at Sindwood, and we also have in fact, do we have another one around here? We don't, thinking about it. So maybe this could be one for freight trains heading south, especially connecting up to Gardcity South Freight Terminal. I don't know. I'm kind of making it up as I go along right now because I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, this is the start of M4J MailRail, which is a parcel carrying cargo, I can't speak now. I don't know what's happened there. I had a complete brain fart. This is a parcel carrying network. We're going to be carrying two different types of mail. There's going to be stopping mail, and then there's going to be express mail. I'll talk more about that in a second and what those actually entail. But for now, at least, I can safely say that we're focusing on the slow mail today, which is going to be operating from a new sorting depot that you will see me build shortly. There's a rail only depot. I'm going to be saying mail and rail a lot, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be saying one when I mean the other. You just have to bear with me on that one as well. There is going to be a rail only depot. In fact, not rail only, because there's road connected to it as well. But there's going to be a rail depot to the west of the city that you'll see me build. Cardtown Sorting Depot. It's kind of ironic, really, that it's built in Cardtown and it carries mail. But yeah, that was a complete accident, as it turns out. That's the western site. There will in the future be an eastern site, but right now I'm focusing entirely on the western site, mainly because I couldn't find a spot for the eastern site. You'll actually see when I finish building the depot here, I start looking where to build this sorting depot, and I could not for the life of me think where to actually build it. I had my girlfriend with me when I was recording the footage for this, and I kept sort of double doubting, triple doubting myself as to where to actually build this. And even now, I'm not 100% certain that A, I've built it the right size, and B, I've built it in the right place. What I might do in the future is move the site slightly to the east so I can have some passing loops going in and out. But you'll see how the site works in a second, and how that all adds up and sort of how it works, and hopefully it works, but we'll see. Where was I going with that sentence? I was going to say something. Oh, yes. So there's a rail sorting depot in the west of the city, and there is a new island, or new part of the island on Gard Island, which is in the centre of Gard Lake, in the centre of the city. I built a new sorting depot there as well. And I wanted a city centre sorting depot so that all terminus stations in Gardcity, so that's GSG, GSJ, GSP, or GSMA actually, so hang on, let's go clockwise. So GSG, Gardcity St George, Gardcity St John, Gardcity St Mark, Gardcity St Peter and St Michael, and also Gardcity St Elizabeth and Gardcity St Bartholomew, slightly further out from the city centre. All of them are sort of equidistance away from this central depot. There are bridges that go north, south, east, west off Gard Island, so it is perfectly possible for trains to travel in all directions from the new sorting depot to any of the other terminus stations, plus also to Cardtown Sorting Depot, where they can be connected to trains. And then they run to... Well, I've got 4 that you'll see me add today. There will be more in the future, but to go off the top of my head here, the 4 that we've got are Cardtown Sorting Depot to Sunnington using the West Winds line, Cardtown Sorting Depot to Fort Flonwood Central using the Great Western line, more on that in a second, Cardtown Sorting Depot to Sanley Central via the... the Garden Western, I think it is, that runs from Gardcity St Mark down to Fort Flonwood Central, and then it connects to the line that runs to Charwood, and then from Charwood it runs down to Sanley Central. That one might be curtailed slightly. I might cut it short, maybe even to Charwood, but Charwood is a mess right now and badly needs rethinking, so I didn't want to cut it there. So at the moment it runs down to Sanley, but that is on the perhaps a rethink is needed pile right now. And then the final one currently is Cardtown to Lenway Rialta via the Gardcity Great Eastern line. So it runs through Renston Interchange, Fruningston, Pendingston, Lenworth Falls, Lanningway, Henninghall Junction, so on, down to Dreadinghead East. And instead of continuing down to Denston Carnegie, which was the original idea, instead continues straight east and ends up at Lenway Rialta, which I wanted to do with a service anyway, but I decided this was a good one to do, mainly because we've connected up with quite a few airports by doing this, and I will add some services off camera in the future that will use the Great Northern Main Line up to Warnbridge Airport, also Gardcity Punfingford Airport, maybe even to Beffingway, and terminate it there for now. I did originally have a plan to run all the way up to Gronwell Superior, but it's such a long way from Gardcity. It's such a long way, so it ended up being unfeasible right now. However, we will revisit that idea in just a second. And we'll also use the Cadenbury Direct Line out of GSMA. And that will connect up to Bathurst Street, Cadenbury Junction, not Buntbourne Parkway, but maybe Buntbourne Town. Again, I tried to make these trains stop at stations that accepted mail. So more often than not, it connected up with stations that were junction stations that accepted mail and were main stations that accepted mail. So, for example, on the route between Cardtown and Sanley, we stop at Gardcity Rinston Airport Terminal 1 because that connects up with the airport. Planes carry mail, so that's a good idea. Dintown, because that's a relatively major junction station. Fort Flonwood Central for the same reason. And then we've got stations like Sledtown and Inverfingbridge, which are sort of major stations, 4-platform stations. They're not junctions or anything like that, but they are major stations in that they interchange with fast and slow lines, and also pretty big towns. I kind of had a rule, if it's over 20,000 population, then I probably should stop there. We also stop at places like Ginningston, Shordinghall, Sadworth Falls, between Fort Flonwood Central and Charwood, and then after Charwood we stop at Peddingham, Donley, Sadhatton, Sapberg Springs, Ronninghall, Cutford Valley, and then Sanley. So yeah, lots of big stations along the way. Another good example is the first route you'll see me add between Cardtown and Sunnington. I do actually have a stop at, so I stop at the major stations like Flame Junction, Dronnington, Tenfing Bridge and Denningwell, but I also have a stop at Plenfing Bridge Tunnel, where the West Winds connects with the Cross City line, and then also Mewood South, because eventually I will have a little spur of the Mount Pleasant Railway that goes via Mewood, and it'll be a good way for trains there to pick up mail and then head up to the top of the mountain with them. And then yes, Sunnington is the last stop there. So it is a bit of a mix and match of different stations, and hopefully it works. I've got currently it's scheduled that a train runs every 2 hours on these routes. I might make it once every hour, maybe even 90 minutes actually, if an hour is too frequent. But we'll see how that goes. Anyway, on screen now you get to see me build the start of Cardtown Sorting Depot. So the plan here was to use as much eye candy as possible, but also make it as good a functioning depot as possible. So this is the west side of the freight loop here. So just where the tracks branch off towards Plynston, and also where the tracks here branch off towards, I think it's Chunston and can't remember the name of the station, but the one that runs towards Gardcity. And it required a bit of a rebuild here and a bit of a rethink. So some of the curves on this line here were way too sharp for what I wanted to do. So that was a no-brainer to correct that, which you'll see me do any second now. And then the next part of the project was to rebuild the tunnel on the northern side of the site here. In fact, yeah, I'll do a little bit more here. I like building these junctions where it's a bit staggered. So you'll see what I mean in a second. Where it's not like a straight connection like that. It actually works. So you branch off and then you branch off again. Now, I like those ones. They look cool. Especially on freight lines. They look really cool. And it's kind of realistic. You tend not to have double... not double slip, but double points next to each other. Unless it's on an absolute main line. Which this isn't. Because it's a freight loop. So you wouldn't have that. So I like the idea of step and then step again. It looks cool. It works relatively well. It doesn't slow trains down either, which is, again, pretty cool. And yeah, I mainly do it for the aesthetics, but you know, this network it used to be built on practicality. Now it's built on practicality and it's aesthetically pleasing, which I'm a big fan of. I want to try and use more. So as I was saying, I want the station to be aesthetically good looking. I want it to be eye candy full, but at the same time I wanted it to be functional. So I think overall I'm pretty happy with the design. I've actually gone for bit of a mishmash. I've kind of used this as an opportunity for... I don't have valuables as an industry in the game, but I've built a couple of platforms as if I was transporting valuables, and I might have specific freight trains, mail trains actually operate from those platforms, just to make it look like there are, you know, gold bullion trains operating on the network. I don't know how well that'll work. Probably not very well, but we'll see. And yeah, I think is it a 7 or 8 platform station? Might be 9 actually, thinking about it. And as I said, it connects up to the road, where you'll see me build the road depot as well, and use eye candy there too, which I didn't think I would do. And then I go over to Gard Island Sorting Depot, which is brand new, which you'll see me build shortly. In fact, let me count how many tracks there are before I do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 7. Okay, I was right first time. And yeah, I add loads of eye candy to the Gard Island Sorting Depot as well, which I'm really pleased with the design of. One thing this has highlighted for me is I still need more new GRFs for sheds. So if you have any suggestions for sheds, warehouses, that kind of thing, feel free to let me know in the comments. I was looking at a post on Reddit from someone recently. I can't remember who it was, but they had a really nice shed next to a station that they'd built, and I really want to find out what new GRF that was, because it looked perfect for what I wanted to do, not just with these stations but also with the sheds that I am currently building, the depots. It would be nice to have variety, because right now I think they do look a little bit samey. I'm not a huge fan of that. So you can see the security platforms that I built there at the southern end of the site, and then you can see me add signaling and speed limits and all that kind of thing. It does look a bit small and a bit weird, but I guess it kind of works. Right now we've got 4 services, which means, let's say at maximum we'll have 8 trains in the depot at any one time, and there are 7 platforms. So we would have one waiting more often than not, but you've got to... And again, the only reason I say that is because you have the train that could be loading and a train that could be unloading at the same time on each service. It's not guaranteed, but it can happen. What I would love is for a patch that actually allowed you to determine whether they would be loading or unloading at the same time. And one thing I've been experimenting with on the Mount Pleasant Railway is having trains not return to the depot for servicing like I normally would do, unless they absolutely need it. So I think it's if reliability drops below 5%, I have them return to the depot. And the idea of that was to try and utilize those storage platforms that I had a little bit more, the old storage sheds, or the old storage sidings I should say, to try and populate those a little bit more. And also the trains weren't running to the depot anyway, they were just running from one end of the siding to the other and then starting the sequence all over again. So thought, why not actually include that as part of the schedule. I don't know if it works. I've not really been keeping that close an eye on it, to be honest, but maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, we'll find out. But if that does work, I want to roll that out on something more main scale that isn't yet the full network. So I think MailRail might be a good way to actually test that in a proper case study, rather than having to risk like completely blocking up a passenger line. Speaking of, I've been doing that a lot lately. I fixed something earlier today and managed to break something else, but I was out all day, so I didn't know until I got home, which meant there was a huge blockage on the line for like 5 hours, which wasn't very good. Some of my signaling in certain places is really ropey. For some reason, I've updated the cargo distribution graphs and how they update now, because was it last episode or the episode before where I built the lumber trains, and I've been testing those and they seem to work fine, and then out of nowhere scrap metal got loaded onto one of the trains running to the sawmill, and I didn't have a platform for scrap metal there because I wasn't expecting it. So what ended up happening was it completely botched everything up, because the train didn't go into the station, it carried south instead, went to Sanley Central I think it was, then reversed back up the line towards Charwood, and then just got stuck at Charwood, and then that blocked all the Charwood trains, the ones that terminated Charwood. I don't think there's any that run through Charwood at the moment, but that was a mess. And then yeah, just cascaded and blocked the entire network. I also had a similar problem over at Morningpool Falls, where I hadn't routed a train properly. I think there was a bit of track that I hadn't built that connected the depot sidings up to the depot itself, which meant any trains that used that platform couldn't get to the depot. That caused a backup. There were APTs queuing from Morningpool Falls right the way back to Wenfingfield and maybe even beyond. So that was a big boo-boo as well. Basically, every time I fix something, I break something else, which is really, really frustrating. But hopefully now I have, in fact, fixed pretty much everything. We will see. And again, stressing dispatched not when they're supposed to be. So I'll go and investigate that at some point, try and find out what's going on there. And then maybe, hopefully, not just maybe, hopefully actually fix whatever it is that's going wrong. And then, yeah, we should be able to get those trains running again. At the moment, I'm finding services that are currently not working correctly and just adding a single service at a random point during the night. So I try and schedule it a bit more. So say there's 6 hours between the last train of the day and the first train of the next day. I'll schedule a random service halfway between those 2 points, so 3 hours in this case, to try and get a clean run where the train can redo its timetable. And hopefully that will mean these timetabling issues won't happen again. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's a glitch with the patch pack or whether it's I've done something wrong. I don't know off the top of my head. I've looked into it a little bit, but with no real luck. I've noticed some graphical glitches. You might notice that during the recording as well. My cursor isn't showing the orange cursor that you normally get in the game. It's a white cursor with the orange cursor behind it. I don't know what that's all about. And I've also had this weird graphics glitch. I've updated to the latest version of the patch pack, which is 1.42.2, I think it is, or 1.41.2. Whatever the latest one is at the time of recording. And for some reason it's turned some of my sprites 90 degrees. So for example, if the line runs from north to south, all my sprites will be turned so they're facing east to west. I don't know why it does that. Zooming in or out does actually fix that, but it's still kind of an annoying thing to have. I just don't know what that's all about. Again, it might be a little bit of a glitch. I understand when you fix some things with the patch pack, some other things might get altered. That's part of being a developer, so I'm not complaining about it as such, but it's something I'd noticed, so I thought I'd point it out in case, again, it might be something I've done wrong. I'm very quick to blame the patch pack, I know. But yeah, if anyone knows what that is or how to fix it or whether it's serious or not, because if it's not game breaking, then I'm not too bothered. It's a little annoying to have the sprites facing the wrong way, but that's about it as far as I'm concerned. It's not something that I'm going to be complaining about necessarily, unless it breaks the game, in which case I'll be a little bit peeved, but not too bad. Anyway, this is the Gard Island sorting depot that I was talking about. So as you can see, I've built out some land from the island itself. This is a kind of an isolated part of the island, like it doesn't really link up to the rest of the town. I think it does stretch far enough over that it does in fact accept mail, but it's not designed to do that. It's meant to be like literally a sorting depot, so trucks will come in from the different stations, they'll drop mail off, they'll then get picked up by other trucks and then taken wherever they need to go. That's the plan anyway. Whether it works like that or not, the only way we'll ever find out is by testing. All of these depots have entry roads that are controlled by waypoints, stops acting as waypoints, and that's just to control speed limits. No other reason for that to exist really, other than I think it'll be cool to have vehicles operating at realistic speed limits in and out of these areas. You imagine there's lots of people walking around loading vehicles, unloading vehicles, that kind of thing. Kind of makes it more realistic just to have those low speed limits. And then you'll see me add the eye candy in just a second. I do in fact add some docks to this as well. I haven't actually checked if there are ships that can carry mail. Even if there aren't, I think it looks cool to have the docks. It just makes it look a little bit more industrial and a bit more logistical, like it links up to other parts of the network. So maybe we'll use them, maybe we'll not. I don't know off the top of my head right now. Let me know in the comments actually if you think that's a cool idea. We'll see what you guys think. I've also added some eye candy tiles that have, so when you have goods waiting at station, they show as goods. I don't know if that works for mail or not. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't, there may be alternatives to that. We'll have to see. I had a look again on Reddit earlier for interactive station tiles, and the ones that were suggested were, was it ISWR or IWR? Oh, it's the industrial renewal set, isn't it? So that's IRS. That can't be right. Anyway, whichever one that is. And I think chips was the other one. And I believe I've got both. So I might start looking at chips a bit more and see what that's about. Because I don't think I've used that very often. Don't think I have. Maybe I have. I don't know. But yeah. Again, let me know in the comments what you think about this design. I just wanted to fill the space really with as much eye candy as possible. And I think I've done a pretty decent job. I've tried to make them look like secure sites as well. Because obviously that's what they would be in real life. Only authorized vehicles would be allowed in or out, especially again if you imagine the fact that it won't just be like Amazon packages being delivered using this. It might also be more valuable items. I'm not saying gold necessarily, but things more valuable than, you know, a phone charger or a phone case or the latest book by such and such author. I'm talking about things that might be worth like a few hundred, maybe even a few thousand quid, that kind of thing. There's the docks going in, and I think that was the end of the first part, and we now switch into the second part any second now. There we go. So we're adding the 4 services in that you saw me talk about earlier. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is train reporting numbers. So you've seen me use 1s for express trains, 2s for stopping trains and semi-fast trains, and 6s for freight trains. Now, the UK does have train reporting numbers for parcel trains, which is what I'm counting these out. I keep referring to them as mail trains, but they are, in fact, when you think about it, parcel trains. And the number for parcel trains, technically, okay, so there's 2 types. You've got a nominated postal or parcels train, which can use the number 1. And I will use those for the express mail, which, again, I'll talk about in more detail in a second. And the one that I'm using currently is number 3. So it says freight train if specially authorized, a parcels train, autumn railhead treatment train, empty coaching stock train if specially authorized. So I'm going to use number 3 for the parcels train. There are no other parcels trains in the list apart from the number 1. 3 onwards is freight trains, empty coaching stock, and it says class 373 train, other passenger train if specially authorized for number 9, but I'm pretty sure that London Overground uses number 9, and I think Thameslink does as well. That's why I've started using that for things like Gardcity Connect, Gardcity Express, and Gardcity Overground. Use the number 9 for all 3 of those because they're kind of like universal. They don't have a specific what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have a specific class as such. They all operate on multiple lines. They tend to operate at multiple speeds. I'm pretty sure I use 9 for the high speed line as well. I might use 1 for that. I might use 9. I can't actually remember. But yeah, these are all number 3 currently. But as I said, I've got stopping and I've got express. So the express parcel trains will run from terminus stations in Gardcity, and they will run to the other end of whichever line that is. So for example, Gardcity St George, the opposite end of that line is either Sunnington via the West Winds line or Gronwell Superior via the Great Northern and Grand Northern line. Now in this case, the one I will use the most is probably going to be the Gronwell route, and that will stop at only key stations along the way. So the one that I did have planned stopped at stations like Dontborough as well, or Dontborough. I think I'm going to say Dontborough from now on. The express train will only stop at Pumpingford Airport, Honningville, Warnbridge Airport, Beffing Way. Don't think it would stop anywhere else. Elliston. Maybe even to to Drentbourne and possibly down to somewhere like Prunford or maybe even Bar City Central. Now I've wondered about creating mail-only platforms. Sunnington has one. It's a goods-only platform technically because it also uses recyclables and goods and food. Likewise, GSG does actually have a freight dedicated platform, which is the platform between the express platforms and the high-speed platforms. GSP used to have one, and I think GSMI used to have one as well, but they've now been converted to passenger use. And it's relatively easy to convert them back, or at least have all but one platform be for passenger only and then have one be passenger and mail, because theoretically you could have both. I think Euston still has a platform that can be used for parcels as well as passengers, because ultimately you just need a flat platform and then maybe a slightly higher platform height so that you can just roll cages in and out of a cargo train. It's not rocket science, you know, it's relatively easy. But yeah, the specially dedicated platforms is something that I can work on in the future. It's not a big deal right now. And the express trains are things that I will add in the future as well. I kind of just wanted to have 4 just to see where we're at. Have them run in opposite directions. So like I said, we got one that goes to Sunnington, one to Fort Flonwood Central, one to Sanley that does actually connect up with the Fort Flonwood Central one, and then one to Lenway, which I don't think connects with any of the others, no. And all of them run through, actually all but one of them, sorry, run through airports. The second one runs through Great Winfield Airport, the third one runs through Rinston Airport Terminal 1, and the last one terminates at Lenway Rialta Airport. So again, just trying to find a purpose for these, make sure they exist for the right reasons. There's a great question coming up in episode 100 actually about why does something exist, and the answer to that right now is I'm going to have to make something up, I think, because it's going to be tricky to come up with a suitable answer other than I just thought it would be cool. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about, there's lots of rail news that's going on at the moment, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about that in this episode. I might even leave some of it until episode 101, because I think episode 100 is specifically going to be for answering questions, but there are some questions about rail news, so some of it will get mentioned. But the last thing I want to talk about is parcel trains in the UK at the moment. So back in the day, you might have had a steam loco pulling a set of, is it TPO, Travelling Post Office carriages? And if you go to the Great Central Railway anytime soon, they might still be doing demonstrations, but they got all the equipment set up with the Travelling Post Office. They had the old net and arm system, so an arm would swing out from the train and it would drop parcels off into a net at the side of the track. Likewise, there'd be an arm at the side of the track that will then drop parcels into a net attached to the train. Really cool system. As a mechanical fan, it was really cool to see it in action. I've only seen videos, I've never seen it live, but it was a really cool system, as I said. And they used to be able to sort tens of thousands of bags of mail whilst moving, and they also used to pick up and drop off whilst moving, thanks to that system. Sadly, we don't use that system anymore. Something like a modern version of that I think would have been pretty cool, but sadly not to be. Instead, in the UK, we have Class 325s, which were built specifically for parcel trains. Now, these were built back in the 90s. They look like networkers, but they're actually based on the Class 319s, which are the old Thameslink trains. They work really well. They could travel at 100 miles an hour. They were used on the West Coast Main Line and the East Coast Main Line. Dual voltage as well, so they could operate under the wires, but also on third rail. And as I said, good top speed, travelled nice and quickly. Didn't take too long to go from one end of the journey to the other. The Wikipedia page that I'm reading actually ends at 2017, and even then that's talking about the mock-up cab that was used to demonstrate what these things look like. 2013 is the last time operations were mentioned, and DB Schenker were in charge of them at that point, and they were adding services on the East Coast Main Line. To my knowledge, they are still used. They're 4-car units, but they can be used as a 4, an 8, or a 12. The fact that we've now got companies like Orion that are introducing 319s for parcel traffic, I don't know if there's a future for the 325s. I hope there is, but I'm not entirely sure. But the fact that the 325s and the 319s are based on the same operations, maybe it might be possible to make them compatible with each other, because they do use the same, what's the traction equipment, that's the word I was looking for. They share the same traction equipment. I don't know if they share the same control equipment though, so I don't know if they can ever be coupled together. But it'd be kind of cool if companies looking for logistics stock were to acquire the 325s and the 319s, because they could operate them, operationally speaking at least, they could operate them together. They might not be able to operate them as units together, but it's kind of a point I've been making on Discord recently about stock familiarity, and it's something I'll talk about a lot more in the future, I'm sure. But yeah, they're there to be used basically, and it'd be cool if they were used. Good top speed, good capacity, good history as well. They were used very reliably back in the day, and we don't really see much in terms of parcel usage on the railway at the moment. We are starting to more with these Orion trains, and also is it Porterbrook's or Angel? One of the other companies is now starting to look into it as well. Old passenger trains are now being tipped to be converted for mail use, which I think is awesome. And particularly this huge buzz right now to get trucks off the road and delivery companies being more popular than ever. It does seem like a logical idea to build distribution centres around the UK and connect them up via rail rather than road. Even if the last mile of each journey has to be done by road, that still takes a lot of traffic off of the railway, off the road, sorry, and adds it to the railway, which as long as the railway can cope, I don't see that being a bad thing, but that's not for me to say right now. I don't know. But yeah, let me know what you think down below. I think the 325s are really nice looking trains as well, because they look like networkers. They work like 319s, but they look like networkers. And I kind of want to know what's happened to them. So if anyone knows actually what's happened to them, they've not been withdrawn. They are still in use. But does anyone know what diagrams they're used on? Does anyone know what they're actually used for? Are they used for parcels? Are they used for other logistics? Anyone who knows, feel free to let me know down below, or let me know on Discord. I'm trying to educate myself more about different parts of the rail network, and I'm also starting to look at road a lot more now. George has been posting some stuff on Discord for me about the overhaul of the bus networks around the UK. So I'm going to start looking at that a lot more, because one of the things I'm going to be looking at next, right now I'm looking at rail logistics, but I'm going to go back to road again soon. And I'm going to start building roads that connect up various towns and cities on the network, so that I can start adding road haulage in, which is something I'm not a fan of in real life, but I think in the game, considering we're set in the mid to late 90s, I think it's realistic that we would have road haulage. Plus I want to try and show off a little bit more what kind of things Patreons can get if they take up a road franchise. So I didn't do a very good job of it before with the bus company, and even now the bus company hasn't really grown how I wanted it to, which is entirely my fault. But trust me, I will get on and do something about that and make it work. And yeah, road haulage. So I want to build motorways around the network, and I want to try using trucks a lot more. Right now I use very localized trucks, which they do last mile haulage very, very well. I want to start looking at the feasibility of actually having long haul. So maybe from like Gardcity out to places like, Gardcity to Gardcity South Freight Terminal is a pretty decent journey. Maybe getting goods from there and food from there and bringing it into town. But also connecting up, say Gardcity with Wenfingfield via mail trucks, rather than just doing it all by train. And actually having options for the freight. So if it wants to go via truck, if it wants to go via rail, it should be able to without there being any issues. But again, let me know what you think about that down below. Any ideas at this point I'm looking out for. I've had some good ideas for episodes in the past, and I hope that ball continues rolling, because it's not that I can't think of ideas, I can, but I like to get feedback on my ideas and also get to hear what you guys want to see and then turn it into a feasible episode idea. It's all very collaborative and it's all very good when it works, which it works a lot, don't get me wrong, but when it works really well, it's awesome. But that pretty much does it for this episode. It's kind of a long one and it's kind of a short one this week. It's around 36 minutes, hopefully, if I manage to hit stop at the right time in the recording. There wasn't an episode last week, and I'm aware of that, and I did say that there might not be an episode last week, and then I made a decision not long afterwards that there wouldn't be one, because I felt like I needed some time off anyway. It might be a bit more sporadic now, because chances are I'll be out of the house a little bit more, so we've all got that feeling of freedom starting to creep in, but again, if everyone behaves themselves, we'll have our freedom back soon. If people don't behave themselves, I can quite easily see us going into another lockdown, so hopefully everyone behaves themselves. It was nice to be out this week. I did miss my PC a little bit, but you know, as I said, it was nice to be out. And uploads will try to remain consistent, but if they are becoming sporadic, then I will say now I apologize in advance, but it's because I'm making the most of the time I've got, basically. And if I do succeed in my job hunt, which I'm still trying to do right now, then again, uploads might be a little bit sporadic, but hey ho. Maybe I'll get back into streaming this at some point, and that might save me some time. Because someone was asking me about how long it takes to make episodes, and I think I'll answer that next episode, so I can go into a bit more detail about it. But trust me, it takes a lot longer than you guys would imagine. Believe me. Anyway, that is it for this week's episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course, if you're enjoying the series, of course, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. Really does help me out. Share the videos as well. If you know anyone who likes railways or transport in general, please do hit the share button and let them know about it. And besides all that good stuff, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. And until next time, I will see you soon.